Pump it up, the reds are going up. No, pump it up, the reds are going up. Don't you know, pump it up, the reds are going up. Don't you know, pump it up, going up. Don't you know, pump it up, the reds are going up. Don't you know, pump it up, the reds are pumping up. Don't you know, pump it up, it's a going. Don't you know, pump it up, the reds are going up. Don't you know, pump it up. Don't you know, pump it up. Don't you know, pump it up. The reds are going up. No, pump it up. The reds are going up. Don't you know, pump it up. The reds are going up. Don't you know, pump it up. The reds are going up. Don't you know, pump it up. The reds are going up. Don't you know, pump it up. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the weekly Super League show. Tonight I'm joined by Ardsley Celtic manager Hodgy and BTEC Troopers boss Ian. We're just waiting for them to join the meeting, and we'll be ready to go. Just got a slight technical problem. They'll be with us in 1 second. It was an interesting week in the Super League this week. With regards to our Team of the Week vote, I found there was a lot better team performances this week, but less inspiring individual performances, which I found was quite interesting. Oh, I think the boys are coming in now. Just connecting to their audios. Evening, Hodgy.
You all right, mate?
How are you?
I'm good, pal. Can you hear me?
I can hear you fine, mate. I can hear you fine. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, spot on, mate. Sound.
Good, good lad. Just waiting for Ian to join us. We had the same issue with the password, I think. Getting the hang of it, but we're getting there. I think he's coming in.
It didn't ask me for a password.
Oh, it didn't ask me for one either, but
No,
there he is. Just connecting to his audio now. There's his happy smiley face. There's no gun behind his head, though. It's unusual.
I can't see him yet. He's not popped up on mine.
Evening, Ian. Well, it says he's connected, but I'm not sure if he can hear me or not. Ian, can you hear us? Oh, it's connecting to audio again. Is that any better, Ian?
Yeah, can you hear me?
No, I can hear you now, mate. How are you?
Yeah, good. Yeah, you?
Yeah, good. Can you see Hodgy on the screen as well?
I can see Hodgy. Yeah, I thought I could see. Oh, yeah, I thought I could see Ian as well for a minute earlier, but obviously I was just seeing things. Was that?
It's just us, I'm afraid, mate. Just us.
No, it is. Yeah, I was just. DMs have just been going on a bit, haven't they? It seems like transfer silly season starting again, doesn't it? So.
Yeah.
I've not been looking, mate. Not engaging yet. Too early.
You know, you might miss the boat, mate. Still got our deal to look at if you want it.
Besides, I'm doing that thing again where I play that badly. No one wants my players, and everyone just leaves me alone.
Is that why you've now got the game as well, so you can practice at being bad?
I'm just happy it's working, mate. I've tried so many times, different ways, and then I just tried again, and it suddenly started working. I mean, I'm no better at it, but it's working now. So I'm able to try stuff at least, as I think it was you said, Hodgy. It's the best signing I could have ever made.
Yeah, definitely, mate. Definitely.
But welcome both to your first appearances on the midweek show. I think you've both watched the trial one I did with Ian and last week's first proper one. What did you think?
Yeah, good, yeah. And I think Scott was really good as well on his, wasn't he? It was a good performance.
Oh, fountain of knowledge, that boy. Fountain of knowledge.
He's a good lad, isn't he?
Oh, yeah, sound. And I know Martin said to me, I think I didn't notice it at the time. Apparently he had a pen either in his hand or on the table and one behind his ear. It was driving Martin's OCD wild.
I don't know. It was the stopping to have a break for his puffer that kept getting me. Like,
Yeah. Well,
Oh, are we allowed to do that? I've got mine. I've left mine away. I was going to be a little bit more professional.
Mate, anything goes. 9 o'clock is past the Super League watershed. You do what you like, mate.
Cool.
I'm going to try my best to keep it to the time so we don't have a fabled second part that never gets shown. But just the same process. I've written a few points down from Sunday. Obviously, I was on comms anyway, so it might be refreshing on a few things I spoke about. Bloody cat. And yeah, you guys just let me know what you think. I think there's only one place to start after Sunday's action. Ardsley not only running away at the top of the league, but now the outright record holders for most wins in a row, Hodgy. Incredible when you consider.
Yeah, I know. I don't know where it's come from, to be honest with you, mate. Yeah. I only realised it was when Martin stuck them records up. I thought Ryan had a lot more than six wins. Obviously, his unbeaten run, it's something like 16 games. But I actually thought he'd done more wins than that. So, and it just all sort of fell into place that we were going to Bolton and sort of pinch the record, if you like, there.
And Ian, I mean, obviously, I struggle to win a game. That's a given. But yourself, I think it's fair to say there are times you struggle to put back-to-back wins. So 7 wins in a row. What does that take in the Super League?
Do you know what the biggest thing for me about Hodgy's win and getting that record was he's gone away from home to the champions, and Ryan has pretty much just tried to stop him. I think Ryan would have took a draw just to stop the record. So I think it shows how far Ardsley's come, that the champions were just trying to stop him at all costs at home, really.
And on the subject of Bolton, they used my fabled random tactics generator. Do you think, as you said, that was to try and stop Ardsley, or do you think it was they almost were resigned to losing the record? So they just thought, oh, if we just throw any tactic out there, it don't matter. We can claim this because it wasn't our normal tactic.
Well, I think we've all, at one point or another, toyed with 3 up top, but I think Hodgy's probably the only one who constantly plays 3 up top. And I think Ryan was so aware Sorry?
Kieran does as well at
Well,
Church.
yeah, he does, yeah. I mean, he dips between 2 and 3, does he? He dips between 2 and an AMC. But I think virtually every game this season, I think Chris has played maybe 1 or 2. You might not, you might correct me, but it's been pretty much 3. It was certainly 3 up top when he stuck 3 past us. And I think Ryan put 3 at the back, and I think he built around 3 at the back. Obviously, he didn't want to let his wing backs go, so he's got 3 at the back plus wing backs. The thing that surprised me was wing backs and wingers. I always think wing backs and wingers seems a bit of a strange decision to me.
When you saw the tactics, Hodgy, were you confident of getting the win?
I was a little bit more confident than I was if he'd have gone with his usual setup. I thought the wingers were played to stop my wing backs getting up the pitch. I thought that was the idea behind that. That if he had, I don't know, was it Raul and Figo that he had out wide, that they'd sort of keep my fullbacks push back and not let them get up the pitch and create. I was quite surprised that I thought sort of previous champions of this league would not be going, especially to a side like us, one that he slagged off massively this season at the start of the season, Chudley Cannons, when he'd had a few cans himself, you know. I thought he would have gone and tried to sort of stamp his authority as like we're still the champions, because we'd not been particularly convincing. I mean, we beat Swindon 1-0 and we beat Sloss 1-0. So I would have looked at them 2 games and thought, they're not scoring a load. If we can go and get 2, we're probably going to win. And you'd fancy yourself as champions to get 2 at home. But, you know, obviously, I think he'll admit himself, it backfired a little bit on him. And, yeah, we were happy. I was happy with the point. At 90th minute, I thought it's a decent point away from home. And then, obviously, we just snuck one in right at the death.
No, I know what you mean. And they are different characters, but to back up your point, if you go back to the first incarnation of the Super League, when Hallow were champions, Boise wouldn't have gone about it that way, I don't think. When he was in his pomp, he would have gone at teams to say, I'm the champion, this is why, kind of thing. If we move on, Ian, next one I want to look at is Panathinaikos. After looking so promising, they've lost again despite another decent performance. What's going on?
Not too much wrong there, I don't think. I mean, there's an argument to say that there was a honeymoon period, and some people might even say that Chris Mack was maybe getting slightly more out of his team than a lot of other people would. So I don't think a couple of slightly ropey results are too much for him to worry about. He's shown that he can get, you know, more than probably the sum of the parts out of that team, I think. You know, it's a little bit of the old Brian Clough, isn't it? You know, you ask him to give 100% and then you squeeze a bit more out of them that they didn't know they had in them. And I think that's what he seems to do, because no one looked at that squad and thought top of the league after half a dozen games, did they? Let's be honest. So yeah, nothing too much to worry about for Chris, I don't think.
And on the flip side, Hodgy, I mean, I think I mentioned in comms on Sunday, I've been quite impressed with how Midlothian have gone about it this year. Obviously, they made the playoffs last year just. No one really, they were kind of, meh, they might do it, but could they be dark horses for at least a top 6, if not a title push this year?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I've always said it in this league that if you get a player who's sort of scoring every time you play, you're very hard to beat, because then the opposition needs a couple of goals, and in the area, I think he's got that. His centre half is solid. You know, his goalkeeper is an issue, but he's playing well. You know, Givens, I think that's 2 on the bounce. He's had 2 good games now, Shea Givens. So I'd look at Midlothian and think they're more likely to progress up than sort of drop back out of the 6. And I think you'd probably look and rather than sort of think what's going on at Panathinaikos, you'd probably say to the boys up in Scotland, sort of, well done. They've got that side going now, and I think they'll be a big threat. I mean, I think Ryan's Bolton play them this Sunday, so that'll be another massive game. So interesting.
When you consider people like Mpenza, as we've all mentioned before, isn't even getting in the team, shows how well they're doing.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you can't. I mean, I know personally you're a big fan of Mpenza, but he can't get into that team because you can't take a bloke out who's scoring goals, and he's going to be reluctant to change to 2 up front because sometimes a centre forward who plays really well on his own don't quite work in a partnership. So I think sort of if it's not broken, just leave it alone. That's probably why Mpenza's not getting a shot at the minute.
No, definitely. Another team very much in the title hunt, Valen. For the first time, I think, in his history, ripped up the rule book this week and thought, you know what, I'm playing Swindon, I'm going to do something completely different, and went and battered me because I was preparing for traditional Valen. Do you think he changed it because they were playing Swindon, or am I looking too much into that? I mean, fair play to him. He embarrassed us. I got no way of defending what happened. I set up to play the normal Valen. I was actually fairly confident of getting a result, but he, like I say, tore up the rule book, did something completely left wing, and went and absolutely trounced us.
Yeah, I think it was a bit of both, to be fair. I think they'd had a couple of results that were unvalen, like Andreas Water, like them results. So I think that the change was partly for that. But I think he also knew that you were going to come with a setup sort of tailor-made to his usual formation. So it was sort of like it was obvious for him to do that because he sort of 2 birds with 1 stone, if you like, by changing that. And credit to him, because when I saw it, I thought, well, fucking hell, what's this? But it worked, and he put 3 up top, and they all got a goal. You can't ask for any more than that. He definitely knows what he's doing. I don't think he put a formation out there and thought, let's see how this goes. I think he knew he could get something out of the game playing like that, and credit to him, he did.
And Ian, if I'm looking for something to sort of take as a positive, obviously a lot of people have spoke about our improved defensive record this year, but what do you think is going on when the likes of Kluivert, Inzaghi, Ronaldo, none of them are scoring? Is it something you think tactically wrong with my attack, or am I focused too much on defending?
I feel for you, mate, because I also think that Constantino, Pizarro and Palermo should be scoring. And I'm in the same boat. 3 decent strikers, not getting any goals. I mean, in your defence, I would say that it was a bit, the scoreline, it didn't feel like that sort of a game.
No, it didn't at the time for me either.
So, I think you look at obviously before the game, we looked at your defence goals against column and it looked pretty healthy. Now, obviously, it doesn't look so healthy, but I think you can probably take that one game away from your situation a little bit. And I think you're in a situation where you have a starting 11 there. Obviously, we all have a starting 11 capable of beating each other. And I think there is an argument for saying that Ronaldo isn't reflected very well in 01 02. I know people think maybe I could have let some other guys go instead of Inzaghi, but I still think that if you've got Inzaghi up there, for me, and because I'm from my barrage of DMs, I think give Kluivert a run of games. I think he starts getting goals for you. So again, I wouldn't worry about that too much. I think you've got to persevere with Oliveira. I think perhaps as well as you were doing defensively, I think it's probably in defence where you do actually lack the names. So yeah, I think maybe you're in a similar situation to what I was last year, where I was trying a different formation each week, and you're not giving anything time to perhaps bed in. And I think there has been glimpses enough from your team to say that you could probably just bring a bit of consistency to selection, and after 2 or 3 games, you might see some rewards from that.
Well, if I can stick with you, actually, Ian, the next game I wanted to come to was your defeat, sadly, despite your very nice kit you were wearing against Hooligans. I really enjoyed comms this past week, and I think it's the most I've enjoyed doing comms with Martin, mainly because I was throwing questions at him for a change, and to be fair to him, he normally stays firmly on the fence, but he was answering everything. And I'd like your opinion on what we were talking about in terms of what is causing your inconsistency. Is it, as I asked Martin, is it that the players perhaps aren't as good as we all said at the start when we said you should be title contenders, or do you think it's a tactical issue, or possibly a bit of both?
I think I'm probably a couple of instructions away from doing something pretty good. I started off the season, in fact, after I played you, and fair to say I should have won that game probably. You came away with a point because my guys couldn't hit Cow's ass with a banjo. And if we'd have took an extra 2 points from that game, we'd have been top two. And since then, we've played well virtually every game. Everyone's having 7s, 8s, 9s. And I'm not getting much results-wise. I mean, you look at the Hools game, we had a goal disallowed. Everyone played well. All the stats, all the data was there, was good. We should have had a point, you know. Week before, should have had something out of the game. So I think we probably should be a couple of places higher than we are. So I don't know. Whatever is wrong at my team, I don't think there's much wrong. But I do need everyone. Everyone will tell you I need a guy who will go and get me 20 goals. There's no doubt about that. I mean, I've got offers in. I'm looking at 1 or 2 guys. It's just the problem is when you've got such a strong squad, you don't want to part with certain guys. The guys that people want, you want to keep them. But at some point, I'm going to have to maybe let one absolute Galactico go to get another one in.
And Hodgy, again, if looking at it from the other side, hooligans have this well-documented constant injury crisis at their club. Ow. Good job I got this side. He's just bit me. They've got the constant injury crisis. They've always got players suspended. But this year, I'm kind of getting the feeling they're going to be the team that surprised everyone and possibly could get the playoff place because they are actually grinding out results. They got manager of the week last week for their performance and result. It was a crucial, you could call it an early season 6-pointer for 2 teams chasing a top 6 spot. And they've come away with a win despite not having some of their star names.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if you'd have probably looked at them last 2 games, Valen and BTEC, and you'd have maybe thought if he picks up a couple of points there, he's done well because they're tough games. To come away with 6, it's just massive. He's got a couple of players playing pretty well. I think maybe above what you'd expect. Obviously, Kennedy's well documented with that, and I've been impressed with Santa Cruz. I mean, I didn't give him much of a shot, but every time he played, he was a 5. I think he started 3 games, and I think it was 2 5s and a 6. But he's got something out of him. And then if you sort of think, well, if he's doing this now, a couple of weeks when he starts bringing a few bigger names back in, they could go really well. I mean, you stick Ronaldinho into any side, and you're not going to make him any worse, are you? So I think Thiago's probably now, I would say he's probably been in the best position he's been in since I've been in the league, which is 2.5 seasons. Well, since this half a season, the last one, and these 2 seasons, I think it's definitely the best position I've seen him in, league table wise, and playing with a little bit of confidence. You probably wouldn't be backing against them next week. I don't know who they've got, to be fair, but you'd be fancying them because it's confidence and form just throughout the side at the minute.
Oh, without question. Someone whose confidence might have taken a little bit of a bruising the last couple of weeks. If we move on to the 5-goal thriller between Astor and Dragons, Alf, no matter what he does this season, seems to be getting criticised, whether it's his squad is regressing, his tactics are being described as inept sometimes. Obviously there was the rant the previous week from CMAC where Astor then managed to turn it around. What do you make of Astor? I'll ask you, Hodgy. Can they make a top 6, or do you not think they're going to be good enough this year? Because me personally, I will never write Alf off.
I think they might just miss out, just because if you look at the league table now, they're sort of a way off at the minute and not in any sort of form. But having said that, he plays his proper goalkeeper instead of Jeremy Langfield, and he wins on a Sunday. I honestly believe that. I do. You look, Jamie Langfield should not be in this league, and he should not be playing in this league. And he's got a 5, and he's letting 3 goals. And I think if Jens Lehmann's in there, he's picking a point up, at least picking a point up. And I think sometimes, I mean, and myself, you know, I did it myself last year. Joe Cawley had a couple of bad games. Right, I'm not playing him again. Teddy's out. He ain't playing again. And I think Alf's doing that a little bit with his goalkeepers, and it's cost him there, to be honest with you, because I think Lehmann's in goal, he picks 3 points up. There's strange selections. There is strange selections, but if you play Babel DMC and it gets an 8, nobody can argue with you. And Alf sort of, since I've been in this league, he's always sort of done things, and I think, why has he done that? And then it works, so it's hard to argue with it. Just the goalkeeper one for me is a little bit strange. And again, for me, he's another side that's maybe a top striker away from really pushing on. Sort of Smith, Fasselbanks, Nicolais. For me, you want them at the side of somebody who's probably going to get you 20 goals. And at the minute, they're trying to step up and be that main man. And he's not a long way away, but for me, I can't see them doing it this year. But I think it's not as bad as has been maybe portrayed the last couple of weeks. I don't think it's quite as bad as that. But yeah, definitely in with a shout. Just I personally, I don't fancy them this year.
And Ian, the win for Dragons, obviously crucial considering their position and their aims. A lot of the talk in the blog and then between me and Martin on comms was Jamie's comments. Do you think his attention perhaps is elsewhere than on Dragons, and that is possibly the cause for their relatively poor start for the campaign?
No, I think the relatively poor start to the campaign was probably bedding in some players, new players who may or may not have been good enough. I don't know whether maybe Boyce has perhaps come in and said he doesn't want Giggs at left wing back, doesn't want, Robbie Keane being a one-man team. Perhaps those are the two key places that I felt, the first 2 or 3 games, Keane didn't play AMC on his own, Giggs didn't play wing back, they reverted back to that. I think all the other things that they've had going on, I don't think that would have stopped them really putting a lot of thought into their team and trying to get results. If anything, I think that other things going on may now have, if they haven't maybe done as many funny videos and all that sort of stuff, but what they have done is just knuckle down, put a sensible team out, gone quietly about their business, and again been similar to what Jamie did at second half of last season, just rewarded for the consistency of putting the same guys in the right positions, churning out the results. And I think that's what they're starting to do now. And I think, if they can sort of like maybe knock the Lee Fowler experiment on the head, the same as they've done with, same as they did with their other random signing,
Jonathan Cook or whatever his name was.
Yeah, I get the name wrong each time. I mean, you see him crop up a lot on loads of saves. Never had him myself because he always just looks a bit too average. And there's better out there. Certainly not, I wouldn't have thought, for Super League. You can see Fowler with some of his attributes. Certainly down the right-hand side, he's going to be a player. But, maybe not at the moment. But, yeah, they seem to have sort of knuckled down. And I think this whole thing of having Boyce having all his other stuff on and, Jamie has stuff on with his family and that, and running his marathons, and I think all that probably suits them because they've just been able to quietly go about the business, which is sometimes can be, some of us like to interact and mess about and have a laugh and be constantly trying to nick players off each other, which is all great. But I think sometimes there's an argument for saying just keep your gob shut and just keep quiet and keep winning matches, isn't there?
Is that a little nod to the mythical Edwards ruling there that cost us all a wonderful transfer window?
There was nothing wrong with that deal. All I was doing was moving Gerrard on before he got through the front door. That was it, really. The thing is now, though, the daft thing is I'd take Gerrard in a heartbeat. I'd love him in my team at the minute.
You've both mentioned throughout this at times about teams needing that 20 goal a season striker. One team who has one but isn't necessarily either using him or getting the best, is Sloths. They went down 2-1 to Churchtown. I mean, I mentioned about Yepes. The question is there about Crespo. What is going on there? Ian, if you want to take the Sloth side of things, they've got a squad there, haven't they? They've got some top players there.
They've got some top players. I think, unfortunately for Rob, they haven't got 11 of them. And I think that's where they fall down. I think he's one of the few teams who, when you put a strongest 11 together, it still, for me, doesn't look like he's going to compete with everybody. Yes, Yepes. I mean, if you're saying that, I mean, I agree with you, Yepes should be in that team. But if you're sort of saying that Yepes is your best centre-back, then you're still probably, you know, you look at Hodgy there, top of the league, he's got Kivu and Terry on the treatment table, and he's still going away to Bolton and picking up a win. We're talking here with Rob about maybe do you bring Yepes in for Christian Warnes, who's on a 6.7 and gets sent off, or a Pat Soglu who shouldn't be playing centre back anyway. And I think it doesn't matter how good your DMCs are with Simeone and I. Straight away, 2 of your 11 there aren't good enough. I mean, yes, he's got a good striker. And I think there's an argument. If I had Crespo, if I had that squad, and I had 13 other managers wanting Crespo, I'd be saying to them, all right, which 2 or 3 top players are you going to give me that'll get in my 11, and you can have Crespo. But Rob knows that anyway.
He's done that with me this week.
Uh-huh.
He's done that with me this week.
I've bombarded him.
I had a little sniff around Crespo, and he came back with a very fair offer, but not one that I was willing to follow up on. So we left it at that.
He doesn't even come back to me with an offer. He just fobs me off. I think it's because he's seen how well Buffon's done when I took Buffon off him. He couldn't get anything out of Buffon, and Buffon's obviously been really good for me. So he probably thinks I'm not giving that bastard anybody else.
Well, that's always the risk, isn't it? You know, that is the risk. You know, at the end of the day, we all know what Crespo can do, and we all know that when he moves, he'll start scoring. So it's that thing of, all right, he's not scoring for me, but wherever I've got him, he's not scoring for anybody else. So it's that flip side of it, isn't it? You know, where do you go from there?
Absolutely. But if he took Crespo out, for example, you take like, look at your squad. I don't know what the offer was that you made him, but you take Crespo out of that team. Who's to say that Tristan, someone like that, isn't going to get you 15, 16 goals? It's still probably 10 more than Crespo's going to get him this season. Plus, he might get another top player out of it as well, who would walk straight into his team. And all of a sudden, the balance is there, you know, because you've got loads of good centre backs. Probably any of the 3 or 4 of them would get in his team. One of them plus an decent to average striker. Yeah, you get Crespo, but he's just got one more step towards having a better squad that can compete with everybody else, I think.
Hodgy, obviously, Churchtown took the strange decision almost of letting a supporter pick the team. I think obviously I set the precedent with the hashtag Be the Boss, but he took it that step further. They got the win. What did you make of the decision first to let an outsider, if you like, pick the team and of the performance? Because I described it as not traditionally Churchtown, and I don't think Mr. Greaves sadly took that as a compliment at all.
Tactically naive. That's what it was. That's what it was. No, yeah, it was a strange decision because he's still there. You know, he's had a couple of bad results recently, but he's still kicking around in a place where you think, yeah, they're still well in with a shout. It was a risk. Would he have done it if he was playing Panathinaikos or, you know, another team well up there? I don't think so. Maybe he sort of thought, we'll do it against Sloths, and then I think we've got enough to get over the line, even if, Paul Greaves, Peter Greaves, whatever, if he doesn't, you know, if it sort of falls flat on its face, we can sort of blame it on him a little bit. But I think there was a little bit in his back of his mind thinking, we can put a side out. You know, this bloke plays Championship manager. He's not just sort of let anybody like yourself have a go, Fifey, has he? You know, he's he's you know, but you know, I think it was a low risk, as low risk as it
Calculation.
could have been. Letting somebody else pick your team, I think you're probably going to let them do it against a side that's maybe struggling down bottom of the league. But yeah, it wasn't a bad side, was it? You know, you couldn't argue with the side that he put out. It was a decent side, and yeah, they got the job done. So it'd be interesting to see where he goes from that now. Does he go with his the side that Mr. Greaves picked, or does he go back to being tactically naive and just throwing anybody anywhere? But yeah, it will be interesting to see where he goes on Sunday from that.
We got
Hopefully
roughly.
loses, he's got me.
Oh, has he got you?
Yeah.
Well, he'll get battered and win 2-1.
Yeah, I never get
that's
anything off you ever.
We got roughly 5 minutes left. We just got one more game to cover. It was the boring 0-0 draw between Hoddesdon and Chudley. I've got just one question on both sides, which you can both answer if you like for this final one. Obviously, we spoke about after the fabled second part of last week's show that didn't get shown. I don't think Hoddesdon's squad is as bad as people says it is, and just your opinions on why Chudley are so inconsistent. Ian, if you want to go first on those 2 points.
Yeah, we're past the stage now, aren't we, where you can sort of say Hoddesdon doing a great job because he's got one of the weaker squads. I think he's done well bringing guys in from outside the league. Johnson, fantastic DMC, great attributes, fantastic set piece taker, so there's always going to be assists coming from him. I think he maybe lacks a decent AMC. He's absolutely loaded in defensive midfield. I'd probably swap at the moment with my guys. I'd swap Sigalko and Batistuta for any 2 of my guys. I think, yeah, you can't now say that Hoddesdon's, you know, overachieving. He's properly in the mix. Great squad. And I think as far as Chudley goes, you're probably going to be inconsistent when you take over and you have one window and it's not really your team yet. You know, as I mentioned earlier, he's a good lad. Scott knows what he's doing. Not maybe the easiest to do business with. And I think he probably struggled to get everything over the line in the last window. But I think give him another window, a bit more his team. And I think you will see a bit more consistency from him, to be honest.
Hodgy, have you got anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think with the Hornets, I think, like you said, they're really strong at the back. Them 2 centre-halves, when they both, Lucio and Larson, quality centre-halves. He's got a good goalkeeper. He's got good centre-forwards. But I just think he's lacking in midfield. Not in DMC, in a midfielder who can take the game by the scruff of the neck or create him chances. You know, he's where a lot of teams have got that class in there. He's sort of relying on, like, David Dunn. And they're not bad players, but they're not game winners at this level, I don't think.
I mentioned in that position there's 3 currently that aren't playing. You've got Makoku, who, yeah, possibly a bit young, but we all know what he's capable of on the game. Freddie Youngberg, who I would argue isn't Super League quality, and Samuel Eto'o, who I would argue is definitely Super League quality.
Yeah, I mean, the only way Makoku's going to get any better is by playing. So it may be now that he sort of looks at it and thinks, we might not make this 6, so I'm going to play Tonton every week, regardless of what he does. And then he's going to have the summer where we all know the stats can bump up from lads that have been playing and young players. And then maybe he's got himself a real player there next year. But whenever he's just sort of sat on the bench, there's no reserve football in this league. He's probably not going to get any better. So he's maybe now an ideal position to sort of say, right, I'm going to give this lad, what have we got now? Maybe 8. We've got 16 games, and I reckon you could maybe have a player at the end of it. But,
cool. Well, listen, guys, before it cuts out, I just want to say thanks for coming on. It's been great having you both on, and I hope I've just got enough time to say that if all goes to plan next week, you want to get your Iron Brews in, because not only have I got Ian, the Midlothian manager, coming back on, but his assistant, the ever popular CM on the Rocks, is coming on as well. So thank you both for coming on. Enjoy Sunday. Good luck in your games.
How are you? Are you going to subtitle that for us? Would that be subtitles?
I'll do my best, mate. I'll do my best.
Thank you. Cheers, mate.
But good luck on Sunday, you two, and to anyone who's kind enough to watch this. See you next week.
Cheers, boys.
Cheers. Thank you.
Cheers,
See you later.
guys.